Joining us now is director, filmmaker Jeffrey McHale. Welcome to the show, Jeffrey.
Hey Scott. Hey, Alan.
Nice to have you, Jeffrey.
Girl, first off, congratulations. This film is just wonderful. I was amazed at how many layers were involved just with this that you were able to uncover with this film. It explores the intersectionality of race, gender, queer culture. It's filled with so many stars, and many of whom have played Dorothy. Before we get into talking about the film, I want to know when was the first time you encountered Dorothy Gale and the Wizard of Oz?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for the compliments. Like many of the people that I spoke with, Oz came to me at a young age, and it's one of those things where I don't remember the first. So many people I spoke with cannot remember the first time because it was always with them. Mm-hmm. So, I grew up loving the MGM film and loving Judy's performance. I grew up then, kind of discovered Return to Oz with Fairuza Balk, many years after that. And so, and then as I got older, I dipped into like the other adaptations and fell in love with The Wiz. And so it was, Oz was something that was always around and always something that I loved and appreciated. But, it didn't occur to me to kind of play with it creatively until, a couple of years ago. And I knew, like, how do I touch on all the things about Oz that I love and all the films and the properties? And I realized that Dorothy is the through line through all of those, through the women who played her. There's no other character in our culture like her that has been, adapted and reimagined so many different ways for so many different communities. She's the true, the original pop culture icon. And so I wanted to explore her and every facet of her. And so it was, like you said, it was fun to find those intersections, those ways that, these moments of identity connect with other points,
Yeah. So what would you say the message of Dorothy Gale is?
The message I feel like is overall, I think it's community. It's binding people. It's bringing people with you. It's uplifting people. I think one of my Dorothys that I spoke with, the characteristics, she said it best. She said, it's the curiosity, it's the empathy, and the support that she brings to the people that she meets along her journey. And so I hope that message is something that we all can look to and aspire to in these scary, sad times.
Yeah.
Dorothy's character and even Judy Garland have always had a profound, meaning within the LGBTQ community. What is the main thing about it that makes those stories, really resonate so deeply for our community?
Well, the fun thing about all of that is because, it is just part of our, our queer DNA, like as a young queer child growing up, I was always drawn to it. And, it's one of those things where when you're a kid, you don't know why you're drawn to the things that you're drawn to, so it's funny to see the things that young queer kids, are attached to and are drawn to, and then realize when you get older, like, oh, there's like these things that are connected to larger issues and larger points of identity. And so one of the things that was fascinating to discover is there are these myths within culture that, Judy's death sparked the Stonewall riots, and that, the rainbow flag was inspired by Over the Rainbow, and all these things that like feel like they're connected to Oz, but like they necessarily aren't grounded in like historical fact. It's just like there are these myths around Oz and specifically the MGM, and obviously like Judy Garland is one of the the original gay icons.
Right.
So there's that too. And so I spoke to an author of a book called Friends of Dorothy, and he kind of goes through a lot of those points and did a ton of research and trying to figure out where the term Friend of Dorothy originated from, and was it Judy's Dorothy, or were there other Dorothys that it could have been? And there isn't there's a lot of myth, and it's hard to confirm these things because this is also these sayings and these phrases came from a point where, we didn't have a vibrant queer culture, queer media, so there isn't documentation of a lot of these where these things start. So, they just kind of live and exist and they connect us with each other.
Yes, indeed.
Well,
Great explanation.
And especially with something like with the term like Friends of Dorothy.
Friends of Dorothy. That was the code. Are you a friend of Dorothy?
It was very coded. And I love the fact that, and it's still in play today, because I've had friends who, with Second City, who like will go off and do these cruises. And at the beginning of every cruise, or a while back, like just a couple of years ago, there would be a Friends of Dorothy meeting when you first stepped onto the ship, so you knew where all the queer people were. Nice. It's like it's still in play, and I love. Look, I don't even know how you began. Like, that should be my question. How did you begin working? Like, what did you start with? Did you start with the book? Did you start with the MGM movie? Did you start with Judy Garland? Like, where did you begin your interview? Because you got so many incredible. Yeah,
Lena Waithe, John Waters, Amber Ruffin,
folks who have played Dorothy on everything, and also I loved, who was it? Was it Ashanti who was like, Friends of Dorothy? That's cute. I like that. But like,
I love that. Yeah.
But where did you even begin your work?
So it started with a curiosity about the women who played Dorothy, and so we had a very small list of the larger properties and the larger films, and so that's kind of where I started, was just kind of starting to reach out to some of the actresses and kind of get their gauge their interest and see if they would be interested in chatting with me. I connected with the first Dorothy that I met with was Shanice Shante from The Wiz Live. And we actually met in Los Angeles at an event prior to Judy Garland's 100th birthday. There was a lot of like Oz people in town for this, big event for her that her family was throwing. It was a fragrance launch too, and she was there, and so she had been on my radar, and so I wasn't sure, this would be the night that I would kind of pitch it to her and introduce myself, but we hit it off immediately, and so once we had kind of some Dorothy's that we were interested in speaking with, then the fun part was like thinking about these other kind of cultural voices like Rufus Wainwright and John Waters. And I mean, it's one of the most, the most watched films of all time and one of the most discussed films of all time. And so you really can go in any direction. So then it's just like sending out invitation requests and seeing who, would be interested in talking with me. And so, one of the fun parts of this was like, what is the story? What is the narrative? Like, how are we going to track this? In the beginning, I thought like a fun creative challenge would be like, okay, like we know what biopics look like for these, historical artists and figures. What does a biopic of a fictional character look like? And so like, that was kind of like how I kind of approached it from the beginning. But, as I kind of moved along and started editing, it was very obvious, like, okay, like this can't be a chronological story. We can't just go from book to Judy to on. We need to like immerse these experiences, because these are human experiences. These are the things that these women went through. We can all relate to them, and so I wanted to really attach the themes to the experiences that they had throughout their lives, and use those points to connect them to the narrative of Dorothy in The Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum.
You did a great
job. The fun part was like just kind of finding the text, and thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, I was very excited that you had Rufus Wainwright.
Yes,
there.
We're big Rufus fans.
We're big fans. Actually, the two of us, he was here a couple years ago and did his Judy concert at City
Carnegie Hall. He did that.
So we were both at that show. But what's also that I loved is like, and what really hit me the most was like, I'm so glad you brought up Shanice Shante. She was this undiscovered star at 19 years old who played like Dorothy in The Wiz on NBC when they do those live musical things, and just her story, how it paralleled or like the Dorothy Gale experience of being swept up into this madness, magical world, and then just coming back out of it was, I don't know, it was just it's so satisfying. This movie is so satisfying.
My wife and I both loved it. I didn't know, we didn't know what to expect, and that's when something is even better, is when you walk away going, wow, that's fantastic, you know?
And that was the fun thing about this, too, is like everybody knows MGM. Most of us know The Wiz. And so I was really excited to introduce audiences to some of the names that they may not be as familiar with. And, you know, Shanice and Nichelle and Danielle Hope. I mean, we have this insane reality show over in
what was
the UK
that all
on the
about?
BBC where, so all of these experiences, as Danielle had told me, she's like, these are all very extreme ways that, you know, these women found their path to the slippers. You know, it's very intense. Shanice's was, you know, a live television event on NBC. Danielle's was, you know, this week-long reality competition show, elimination, with 20 other women in ginghams, you know, vying for the spot from Andrew Lloyd Webber, you know, who, and so it's exploring all these interesting and fun other adaptations and other ways that the character lives in our culture, you know. So that's the part that's fun for me, you know.
Speaking of living in our culture, I'm sure you're aware that the Sphere just last week did their version of The Wizard of Oz. I had a lot of friends out there for a blues thing, and they were all posting video that they took. It's enduring. It just keeps going. I mean, I don't know many pieces of work that continue to evolve and are matter to people like The Wizard of Oz. Are you planning to go see that?
I want to. I would love to.
Yeah.
I hope, you know, at some point I'm in Vegas.
Yeah.
It might be hard to make a trip just to see it, but I would absolutely love to see it. I mean, just the way, it's an experience, and they turned it into an experience. And it's something that you need to experience there. So, yeah, it's one of those things every generation that is alive today has experienced this film, and they're this character, and there's not many things that you can say that about now. You know, in a couple of years, there, you know, we'll have Marvel and Star Wars. Everyone alive will have, you know, experienced those things. But right now, it's Oz.
Yeah.
Well, and like in all the reiterations of it, you know, you've got, like you said, like The Wiz. You've got that very creepy Return to Oz. That's there. You have, you know, Wicked right now, which is the other side of the story.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's amazing. It just keeps going and going.
Yeah, which, you know, again, your film, It's Dorothy, which is the centerpiece documentary for Reeling 2025, it does, I love the fact that it's not linear. It's very circular in how you show that, like, with this, like, if you're talking with one of the actors who's played Dorothy, and how that resonated differently, like it rubs up against another experience, and how it really becomes this universal kind of vibe.
Totally. Yeah.
And that was one of the fun challenges too, was like, you know, you asked about Judy early on, like, you know, that Judy was always kind of like the biggest question in my mind of like, how do you approach Judy? How do you tell Judy's story? Because, you know, she lived it in a way that nobody else has. And so once I realized, like, okay, like Judy can't just have her own little section. She needs to kind of live throughout this, you know. And so I went back and watched all of Judy's films again, and found ways to weave together her moments from her films throughout this film, and connect it with Dorothy's journey, you know, and that was a lot of fun.
It really is. Again, I can't say how much I love this film. I have a question for you. Have you ever read the novel Was by Jeffrey Ryman?
I have not, but it's on my radar, and it's on my list for sure. Yeah, the only reason I bring it up, it's personal for me, because when I was in college, they did an adaptation of this novel, which follows two different stories. One is the story of the real Dorothy Gale and what happened. It's not good. Oh my gosh. Like, it's very bleak, but it's also kind of gives you another, again, showing how enduring this character is.
that they would make they keep spinning everything off. Pick it up when you have a chance. But
yeah, I will do that.
Right. But so what do you hope folks take away when they go see It's Dorothy?
I hope that the interesting thing about these screenings and the festivals that we've done so far, which are so exciting, and it's incredible just to see the reaction from the audience and see the emotion, and like you said, like the surprise, their surprise of like people that may not have thought they connected with Dorothy and her journey, to see themselves and to see others in their lives within this character. And so I think and I hope that this character can be used as a way to connect with each other and show our humanity to each other. I feel like that's kind of what we need to see.
It's a
right
constant.
now.
We need that constant reminder, for sure, Jeffrey. For sure. Are you coming to Chicago for the?
Oh my God, I would not miss it. I lived in Chicago for 8 years. Went to Columbia College, Chicago for film school. I have lots and lots of friends there, so I will be there.
Excellent. Well,
we cannot wait to see you along with all of the friends of Dorothy.
Yes.
So when you go, check out Jeffrey McHale's It's Dorothy. It screens next Sunday, September 21st at 4:15 at the Landmark as part of Reeling 2025. You don't want to miss it. It's just wonderful. Congratulations again. For tickets and more information about It's Dorothy and the rest of the festival lineup, head to reelingfilmfest.org. Jeffrey McHale, congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much for this film. We really loved it.
Thank you much. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Ellen. This was so fun.